Hello and welcome to Muncie, Indiana. I am your host, Zach Morris, and I am here with my beautiful co-host. And you are? Lisa Turtle?
No.
Kelly Kapowski.
Your music's a little loud.
It's not that loud.
I don't know who you are.
Zach Morris.
No, you're not.
Okay. Anyways, this is the Schweet Shiznits podcast, and we are here in lovely Muncie, Indiana.
That's like the only thing you've said that's true. Well,
And
no, it's not that lovely right now.
It's raining, it's pouring.
It's raining men.
It's raining rain.
Hallelujah. It's raining men.
Mostly just rain.
Amen.
And if you are not familiar with us, we are a podcast that watches 80s movies and then we talk about them. And this week we did much
Let's
of
talk
the
about
same.
sex, baby. Let's
That's
talk
a
about
different
you
podcast.
and me. Is there one?
There is. There are probably quite a few of them. But we are not that podcast.
My name is Dr. Ruth. Let me talk about
Is
your
that your name?
problems. Do you have problems in the bed?
I don't think she
You
has a
having problems
podcast.
in
She
the
had a radio
sheets?
show.
Let's talk about your diet. Maybe that's why you can't satisfy your woman.
So,
Are you ignoring me?
I'm not ignoring you.
You are ignoring me. You want to get right back on track.
That's trying to get
flaw.
on some kind of track.
That's what we're trying to talk
I
about.
don't know what track we're trying to get on.
That's what we're trying to talk about.
Talk about sex?
Your
And
problems.
Is that the podcast you want to have? I mean, we can just totally reformat this thing.
Yeah, right.
It's a brand new day.
Sure. Schweet shiznits. What's the shiznits?
Yes. So if you would like to find us, we are all over the internet. We are on Facebook at Schweet Shiznits, facebook.com/Schweet Shiznits. We're on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at Schweet Shiznits.
Let's talk about your handles.
My love handles, speaking of sex podcast, we are...
I don't think love handles have anything to do with
You got to have
sex.
something to grab onto.
Those are headboards.
Well, it depends on, I guess, the angle you're coming at it from. And then we have, we're on Instagram also at Schweet Shiznits. We have a new website coming online. It is also at schweetshiznits.com.
Where is it?
It's online in the cloud.
We didn't talk about that yet.
So,
I'm confused.
anyways, we're everywhere. The good and bad of having a podcast called Schweet Shiznits is on the downside, nobody accidentally looks up Schweet Shiznits and just comes across our podcast. Nobody's just thinking, I'm just going to Google Schweet Shiznits and see what comes up. And, oh, wow, there's a podcast by that name. The upside is everything's available when we go to look up, we want to set up a Facebook page or a Twitter account or an Instagram account or a website. Schweet Shiznits is always available. No one else is using it.
Oh, the shiznits.
So you can find us anywhere you want to look. We're Schweet Shiznits. You can find us. We're there.
Sweet and sour shiznits. Wait a minute. Sweet and sour shiznits.
You can look up Krista, and you will find either Krista at Schweet Shiznits or at her other job at Pink Leaf. And you can look me up, and you will find a lot of things before you get to me, because there are a lot of Jason Whites in the world, and I'm probably like the 8,000th most famous.
But his mom swears when he was born that no one else was named Jason.
Yeah, you'll get a lot of things about the former Heisman Trophy winning Oklahoma quarterback. I will come up way down the list of search results. You have to put in a lot of other keywords. If you put in my name and the name of our podcast, I'll come up. If you put in my name and Muncie, Indiana, and podcast, I'll come up eventually. But there's a lot of Jason Whites out there. There's several of them, even just here in Muncie. So it's a rough world having a common name.
You know what else is rough? Is when I throw something at you and you barely pause and then you jump back on exactly word for word where you left.
I'm jumping on. Are we back to having a sex podcast? You talking about jumping on stuff?
No.
We're not.
I'm talking about me just saying something that's a little off from what you were talking about. But then you'll barely pause and then you'll be like, and you can catch me at.
Schweet shiznits.
It's like I didn't say a word. I'm pretty sure I say this almost every week.
So, anyways.
See, there he is.
Yes, you say it every week.
And you do it every week.
Nope, I don't.
You go right back.
I go back
you
eventually
lie.
because otherwise we never finish our
You
podcast.
lie like a log.
But
in
last
a
week
riverbed.
you mentioned
I
that
mentioned nothing.
you wanted to watch a particular movie that was coming up
On
for
Golden
a
Pond?
30th anniversary
Ooh, when's
at
On
the
Golden
theater.
Pond made?
I have no idea.
That's pretty boring, I think. On Golden Pond. I think that's probably a pretty boring movie. I've
Probably.
watched it, but it was a long time ago.
It
But
sounds
you keep
boring.
talking
Just the
because
name of it's boring.
I'm going to have to look now.
So you wanted to watch a particular movie that was coming up for its 30th anniversary, and it was showing
On Golden Pond
at
is a
theaters.
1981 American drama film directed by, hold on, it just went away, Mark Rydell.
Never heard of him.
The
Did he go to
screenplay-
Rydell High School?
The screenplay is by Ernest Thompson,
Again,
and
never
it was
heard of him.
adapted by his 1979 play of the same name. Film stars are Katharine Hepburn and Henry Fonda.
They're both dead, I believe.
In the lead roles, along with Jane Fonda,
She's still alive.
Doug McKeon,
She's in Grace and Frankie.
Dabney Coleman, and William Lanto.
Lando Calrissian.
I don't
from
think
Star
we're going to
Wars?
watch that one.
That sounds bad.
I don't think we want to watch that one. Did you say Starburst?
Yeah. But before we get into this movie, let's talk about what's going on.
Let's talk about sex,
in
baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Yeah.
This is what you do to me all the
Sex,
time.
baby.
This is what you do to me all the time. How's it feel?
Let's talk about what's going on
How does
in
this
the movies
feel to be
today.
me?
Feels great.
You like
I'm
it?
loving it, like McDonald's would say.
You
in
had
the-
McDonald's earlier.
In the world of movies today, yes, I had a quarter pounder with cheese. Mm-hmm. Can you get a quarter pounder without cheese?
You had a quarter pounder with cheese with no pickle and no onion.
Correct. In the world of movies today, we have some movies that are out. The big movies out right now, I believe, are John Wick 3 and The Avengers, I believe, 21, 25, 27. I don't know what number they're up to
29,
now.
whatever it takes.
Exactly. There's been a lot of Avengers movies.
Same color, same car.
It has made like $2.5 billion as of through last weekend. They can share a little bit of that around. There are upcoming movies coming out like Frozen 2, The Secret Life of Pets
Ooh,
2.
on Frozen Pond.
2. And they fall in.
Depends on how frozen it is.
And there is a Joker movie along the Batman series and a new Addams Family movie because that's what we need. They're in the process of developing a new Batman movie, The Batman. I think this is maybe the 12th Batman movie since the original Michael Keaton Batman, which is an 80s movie.
He is Batman.
Michael Keaton.
Yes.
They're talking about possibly Robert Pattinson being the new Batman.
There is no new Batman. It is Michael Keaton.
So you can be Team Edward because Edward will be Batman.
I don't think so.
And maybe bringing back the Catwoman and the Penguin from the second Batman movie. Probably not Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito. I don't know. They may have, at least Michelle Pfeiffer may have.
Do you know what else is out right now?
What else?
Still Magnolias.
It is just for a few showings.
How about that movie Mom? Is it out? Speaking of Michael Keaton, you know Mom, the woman who...
Oh, Ma.
Oh, is it Ma?
M-A, Ma.
It was close.
Yes, it's not out yet, but
That
it's
looks
coming
crazy. I'm like, do I want to see it? Do I don't? I don't know.
soon. We
Do I
wanna
don't?
see it, by the way.
I don't know. We do?
Yeah.
All right.
They're also rebooting for about a year and a half from now a new Mortal Kombat movie
Yeah.
because that's what the world wants, and a new Masters of the Universe movie.
Hey,
So
Still Magnolias is out.
Yeah.
I think it's out through Tuesday, but we paid full price today instead of going to AMC on Tuesday, where we would have paid $5 and
Yes.
pushed our podcast off for a couple of days.
Like
But-
a week. And so
But you
basically,
know what? My new furniture is coming Tuesday. I couldn't have gone because my new fabulous furniture is coming Tuesday.
yes,
And I am
that's
so
exciting
excited.
stuff for our
I'm
podcast
so
fans.
excited.
And you just can't hide it.
I can't keep singing on the podcast because I don't want to hear myself
Because
sing.
I'm about to lose control. You don't listen to the podcast anyways.
Yeah, I don't want to listen to myself, back through my own ears.
So basically, in the world of movies, what I'm saying is that there's nothing new. They're basically making sequels of everything, remakes of everything, continuing in these series of everything. They stopped
What is your
making
point?
new movies. So it would be great if at some point they would just decide we're going to make a really big, great movie.
Us looks like a good movie. We want to see that. We haven't gone to see it, but
But they just aren't making it. Like, all the big movies are either sequels or reboots or remakes. Like, make some new original movies, please.
there are some.
Just a couple.
Well, there are.
Like, if you look at the listing of what's on at the movies, all the big movies are like Star Wars 9 or 10 or whatever they're on now.
Or 12, whatever it takes.
Exactly.
Okay. Is your rant over?
It is.
Okay, let's move on then.
So we'll get back to this week's movie. As I was saying,
That you didn't really want to go because you didn't think we should do a podcast on Still Magnolias, but I put a little poll up.
yes.
And I said, hey, people, do you think we should go and do one on Still Magnolias or no? And the yeses won.
And we got-
You were the only one who voted no.
Yes, 9 other people voted, which would tell me that there's a lot of people who just didn't care because there weren't a lot of
Well,
people who voted it
We did
at
not
all.
keep retweeting it, though.
So 9
Did we?
people said, watch it.
Can you hear me?
I said...
I'm talking.
Yes, I heard you.
We did not keep it retweeting at the top, though, so that, it would be fresh.
I said, don't
Freshy
watch it.
fresh.
And the rest of the internet said,
Fresh Prince of Bel
who
Air.
cares?
Fresh Prince of Bel Air. We didn't keep it fresh. Exciting.
So this week we watched...
Here you are again, talking over me. I
I'm
was
not
getting ready to
talking
sing
over
again.
Anybody.
I was getting ready to sing another song.
Go ahead.
I can't. The moment's over.
Sing a song.
I wasn't going to sing that one.
Sing it loud.
You never remember the words to any
I don't know
songs.
the words. So we watched Steel Magnolias.
Time has made them close. Life
She's gonna have a baby. Go get a doctor.
has made them friends. Steel Magnolias, the funniest movie that will ever make you cry.
So that may or may not be true. It did make me tear up, I'll be honest with you.
I saw you wipe something from your face.
It was mildly amusing. There were a few particularly funny scenes. There were a lot of scenes that were a lot of people in the theater laughed at. But I will tell you, I was one of maybe 3 men in the entire theater. It was a theater full of estrogen, and
You have a problem with estrogen?
no,
You sure?
yeah,
You sleep beside it every night. You want to keep it that way?
sure,
All right, just checking.
that would be best.
Just checking.
But there were not a lot of women in the movie.
It was funny.
The movie
You know
is
who you know what you think is funny? What you think is really funny that you laugh out all the time?
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
You think you are funny.
Right, and I wasn't in this movie.
You always think you are funny.
If they'd put me in the movie, it may have been funnier.
Probably not.
But they didn't.
Anyway,
I mean, I was probably at my peak funniness in 1989. I was like 17. You know, they could have had me in there. I could have been one of the brothers.
yeah, they weren't that funny.
No,
No,
they would have been if they'd put me in it.
I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
I didn't know you then, but
So this was a 1989 film. It was written by Robert Harling, directed by Herbert Ross, and it starred a whole lot of people. Shirley MacLaine, Sally Field, Dolly Parton, Daryl Hannah, Olympia Dukakis, Julia Roberts, Tom Skerritt, Sam Shepard, and Dylan McDermott. This was the first big movie for Julia Roberts. She had been in some other movies before this, but this was her first real starring role. Also, her first Academy Award nomination. She was nominated for Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress.
Actra? What's an actra?
An actra. It's a secret. I can't tell you, or I'd have to kill you.
Again, you were just saying the other day that I threatened you on the podcast. Here you are again, threatening to kill me.
I wasn't threatening to kill you. I was telling you that if I told you, I would have to kill you.
That's not what I heard.
So I'm not going to tell you. So the thing that really was bizarre to me in this movie, Robert Harling wrote the movie based on a play he also wrote. I don't know if he was just like, the movie is based on his real life. And if he was like changing the names of the characters so that they weren't the same, but he just made them sound similar, because none of the names in the movie are like real names. They're all like really bizarre names that you don't ever actually see. Like Malin. It's M''Lynn. Like, that's not a name.
Susan's a name.
Yeah, well, Susan is...
But you didn't say who he was basing it on. You just
Shelby,
started saying other things.
Shelby is a real name. That's Julia Roberts' character. But that's like it.
But you didn't finish. He was basing it on the last, few years of his sister Susan's life.
That is correct.
And Susan becomes Shelby. That's a real name.
Right, that's like the
Who was Malin?
Malin was her mom.
I don't miss
Sally Field's character.
Yeah.
And then
I must have
Truvy.
not understood that. Yeah, Truvia. Was it Truvia?
Truvy.
Was it
It's
Truvy? I'm thinking Truvia.
That was Dolly Parton's character.
I'm thinking Truvia because sometimes I've used
That's
that
an
to
artificial
sweeten things.
sweetener.
Yeah.
That didn't exist in 1989.
I was working on it.
But yeah, I mean, all the names. What was Daryl Hannah's character's name?
Starts with an A.
So let's look this up real quick. You start talking about the movie, and I'll look this up.
You want me to talk about the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, the movie. The movie opens up with Shelby.
No, it opens up with Daryl Hannah.
It does, you're right. But you've got to find her name. I can't start if you don't know her name. It was not like Ari. It was
It was like a normal name, but it was missing 2 letters.
I'm getting there. It was an L.
An L, like Annabelle, without the "be."
Annabelle wasn't a name
It was
then.
like an L.
It was an L.
Nobody names
And
anyone an L.
Shirley MacLaine was Weezer,
Yeah,
which is
Weezer.
really funny.
Weezer, like the band.
And then Olympia Dukakis was Clary,
Which is almost Clarice.
and Tom Skerritt was
Drum. Yeah, 2 of the husbands were Drum
and
and
Sam
Spud.
Shepard, but that could have been a nickname. Dylan McDermott was Jackson, which is a normal
I think
name.
the first time he shows up in the movie, when he climbs through the window, she calls him Jason. And then they call him Jackson the rest of the
they
movie.
didn't.
I'm pretty sure they
no,
did.
You just wanted him to
Maybe
be
it was
you.
me wishing I was in the movie, so it would
That's
be funnier.
probably it.
But yeah, I mean, Drum and Spud, really?
But Spud could be a nickname. He was a good old boy.
Clary, Anel, Weezer,
Can you hear me?
Truvy,
Hello?
and Malin.
And Tommy was Knoll, Knowl. That's a little weird.
Yeah, like who came up with these names?
Probably the writer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was still in mourning because he'd lost his sister, and he just couldn't think of real names.
Maybe. So we were talking about that. It opens up with Anel coming into town, and she's walking all over town and looking for something, and you don't know what, and she sees this wedding being set up, and you hear someone shooting a gun, and that's really weird, and people keep getting freaked out.
And that continues for like the first half an hour of the movie.
It does. This guy is trying to get birds
Out of his
out of his tree.
So they
which
don't
you-
poop on people at the wedding.
Well, that's what I hear. But you later find out, which my phone just went somewhere I didn't want it to go, that it is Drum, Shelby's dad, who is trying to get...
No, I'm Shelby's dad.
Wrong Shelby. The bride's dad is trying to get birds out of the tree, like you said, so they don't poop all over them.
That's what I just said.
I just said like you said. Do we have to go back over that? And so then Annelle continues to wander around town, and then she sees Truvy's hairstyle boutique salon, which is Dolly Parton. And Dolly Parton answers the door, but in the meantime, she's in a disagreement with her husband, Spud.
Yeah,
And
Mr. Potato Head.
and Spud's getting in his truck, and Annelle is like, "Oh, is this a bad time? I'll come back." And she says, "No, you can come any old time, and I'll be yelling at my husband," or something to that effect. And you see next, Annelle is actually doing Truvy's hair, and Truvy likes what she's done, so she tells her she has a job.
Yeah, apparently Annelle graduated as the valedictorian of her hairstyling class.
Which I did not know that existed.
So any of you who have gone to hairstyling school or beautician school...
I think it's called beauty school. Because there's that
if
song.
you're not a beauty school dropout and you actually finished, let us know. Is there a valedictorian? Do they give grades, and can you be the best in your class?
Because Annelle was.
And that's why when apparently Truvy had lost one of her beauticians, and she called the beauty school and was like, just give me somebody. I need someone to come in. And they sent her their best for their valedictorian. And apparently Annelle has a troubled past. She may or may not have been married.
And she doesn't know where her husband is.
Her husband just disappeared with all of their money and all of their belongings.
And he may or may not be wanted by the law.
And something to do with drugs. And later you find out that he got arrested and is in jail, and they were not married.
But, Truvy does not care about her past because that has nothing to do with Annelle.
Well, and
so
she's kind of
okay.
excited about it because...
They like to gossip.
Yeah, the big thing is, in the whole movie, is all these women like to sit around and gossip.
Which, that is something you actually do hear that apparently goes on a lot in salons.
And apparently down south, it's a big thing. I don't know. This was in Louisiana. It's where all this was supposed to take place. And
but this, what I've heard is like the regulars at salons, the older ladies go in and talk. I don't have a clue.
So through the course of all of the incidents, we meet Shelby, who is kind of
my daughter.
Yes, but she's kind of the main character, played by Julia Roberts. She's the bride who's getting married, and her mom, Malin, is Sally Fields.
And the bride's getting married to Jackson.
Now, Shelby was not originally going to be played by Julia Roberts.
You're just all over the place, aren't you?
She was being cast as Meg Ryan, and Meg Ryan ended up making When Harry Met Sally instead, a movie which we have put up in polls as a possibility to be on this podcast multiple times. It has finished dead last in every poll.
But Jason's mom wants us to do that movie.
I'm sure we will eventually, but apparently the people on Twitter, at least, do not want us to watch When Harry Met Sally.
I don't know.
So
back to what we're talking about.
So
they show the excitement and things that can go wrong when it's the wedding day.
Yeah.
And the whole time, though, Shelby's dad continues to shoot up into the tree. Into the tree. Drum.
Yeah.
He continues.
But then Malin eventually hides his gun.
Mm-hmm. When he goes in to go to the bathroom, she hides his gun.
And so him and his two sons try and make do by finding a crossbow.
And firecrackers.
And some firecrackers. And they strap the firecrackers to one of the crossbow, what are those called?
Arrows?
They're arrows, but there's a name for them. Bolts.
I don't think that was
So
necessary.
they tie a bunch of them to the bolt. They light the firecrackers, shoot them up into the tree. They all blow up. They do get all the birds to leave.
That's true.
Nearly burn the tree down.
But in the meantime, though, Shirley MacLaine is angry. Weezer. She's stomping all over the place, and she has this
dog with
dog.
anxiety issues.
Right, that it just looks like a mangy mess. And
It's a Saint Bernard.
She is stomping over to the beauty salon.
Now, Shirley MacLaine's character, Weezer, named after the
Band. Yeah.
is angry through the whole movie.
She actually didn't go to the salon. First, she stopped over at their house, and she wanted to talk to Malin, but
Because she does not
and
like Drum. They do not get
Malin
along.
and Shelby snuck out the back door to head to the salon. They did not want to
Deal with
have
her.
to deal with her. But then Drum opens the door, and they go back and forth at each other.
And Drum just harasses her as much as he possibly can.
They give it back and forth to each other
And he growls at the dog.
throughout the movie.
So Shirley MacLaine, honestly, is one of the highlights of the movie. Her character is brilliantly played. And then her kind of best friend / nemesis in the movie is Clary, who is played by Olympia Dukakis. Also brilliantly played.
They love to hate each other and hate to love each other, but then they're best friends.
They pick at each other constantly, and
Can't live without each other.
right. So that kind of rounds out the characters in the movie, and all of the women. Really, the women are the focal point of the movie. The men are kind of side dressing.
Which is basically why mostly women were in the theater.
Right. And in the play that the movie was based off of, the male characters didn't exist. It was only women in the play. They had no male characters.
They talked about them a lot, but
Yeah, they talked about them a lot. But they didn't, obviously in a play, they don't have as many sets. They're not taking place over all the different locations that they do in a movie. So it probably was more taking place in like the beauty salon, the wedding, just a handful of places. And it was the women gathered around talking about all the stuff.
so early in the movie, though, while Shelby and her mom are getting their hair done, Shelby has
An episode
of some kind, and you find out that she is diabetic, and she looks to be having almost a seizure. And they get her some orange juice, and once she finally settles down, her mom tells them, they all know, and they're all longtime friends in the salon, and so they know that she is diabetic. And her mom tells them at the last appointment that she's been told that she shouldn't have kids. And so, they're all kind of sad for her. And Shelby says, but Jackson has said, that they had a talk about it, and she told Jackson not to marry her, but he wants to marry her anyway, that they can adopt 10 kids or 20 kids, that there are lots of kids to adopt. And he said, just promise me you'll marry me. And so apparently she does promise. And so that takes place like pretty early in the show. That
Yeah.
they let you know she's been sick.
And there are little bits and pieces. Initially, the scene where he comes in the window at the very beginning, it reveals that they had a fight. And that there was a discussion of them not getting married. But it's kind of played off. And then she mentions at the beauty salon that they had a fight and that the wedding was almost called off, but that they worked it out.
Well, and when she says that about the babies, and he said, just marry me, that's what it was about.
Yeah, you start to realize that that's what that fight was about. So it wasn't that they were really fighting. It's that she was saying, look, you shouldn't put your life and your dreams aside because I can't have kids. And so she was kind of putting him ahead of herself. And he was refusing to go. Excuse me. So, all this continues to happen. The wedding happens. They get married. Everybody's happy. And then it cuts forward to that Christmas. They're having a big festival. Shelby comes home to visit. And
Anna, what's her name again?
Annelle.
Annelle. I almost said Annabelle because of you. She was like plain Jane and real backward, but now they cut to her, and she's gotten contacts, and she does her makeup now, and she does her hair. And while Shelby was gone, apparently she had a wild spell where she was drinking and smoking, and
But then she found Jesus.
yeah, and then she went to church and found Jesus, and now she's a strictly, quote, religious girl.
But then Shelby tells her mom that she's pregnant. And you find out that it wasn't that Shelby couldn't have kids. It's that Shelby's doctors told her that she shouldn't have kids because her body is weak and it would take a huge toll on her. And
Her mom is upset with her.
yeah, everyone
her
else is
husband.
initially excited, and her mom's really upset because this could cause serious health problems for Shelby. They go through all this. Her mom finally comes to terms with the fact that she's going to have a baby, and then they cut forward again to the baby's first birthday.
Right.
And at the first birthday, you see them all sitting around having a birthday party. We found out reading some of the notes that 1-year-old Jack, which was the baby's name, didn't actually apparently like Julia Roberts as well as the characters may have seemed, because he wouldn't sit on her lap. So
That's normal for a toddler.
for a 1-year-old. So they actually had to film the scene of the the toddler sitting on his mom's lap to blow out the candles with the baby's actual mom, because
But they only shoot it from the top of the baby's head down, so you don't
can't
see.
tell.
Which I wondered during the movie. I thought, I bet that's not really her, because, I mean, he's sitting around a bunch of strangers, and so sitting on another stranger's lap just freaked him out. Which doesn't surprise me, having my own kids.
And then they go back to the beauty salon after the birthday party.
Because Shelby tells her mom, I want to go with you. Because her mom was going to go get her hair done.
Right.
She says, I've decided I want to just cut all my hair off. I want a new look. And her mom says, well, let's go. And so she goes and tells Truvy, Dolly Parton, she wants to cut her hair off.
And she does. And Dolly Parton gives her a really cute short haircut.
And she freaks out a
And she starts
little.
crying.
Mm-hmm.
And then she finally gets herself together and says she wants her nails done. Well, in the process of getting ready to do her nails, they see that she's got essentially track marks.
And bruises up and down her arms.
Yeah, all up and down her arms. And so then they start questioning what's going on. And she tells them that she's been in dialysis. And those are from the dialysis needles. And so they're not, they're all like, well, how do you have to do this forever? Actually, Annelle asks that. And she says, well, no, because I can get a kidney transplant. Well, how long do you have to wait? Aren't there like lists and stuff that you have to wait on to get the kidney transplant? And she's like, well, normally, you could have to wait years, but I have a donor lined up. My mom's going to give me a kidney.
Tomorrow.
And so they have this all worked out. And the next day, they have the transplant surgery. Everything goes well. And they go about their lives. And then it cuts forward again. And Shelby is at home.
No, Shelby is at the hospital
Shelby's at
because she
work.
works in, she's a nurse on the OB floor, and she's
Yes.
taking care of babies.
And she's holding one of the babies, and she starts to get a little queasy. She puts the baby down, and then she's going to leave. And one of the ladies is holding a bag with a Halloween costume in it. And she's like, well, this is beautiful. And she's like, yeah, it says something about it. And she's going to dress Jack in it. And she's getting ready to head home.
And when she gets home is when she starts feeling bad.
Right. She's already feeling bad, but she manages to get home, and she's out on the back patio with Jack, and she goes to pick him up, and she gets really lightheaded and she's like, I got to call Daddy. She goes inside.
And she starts crawling up
crawling up the steps. Well, then you see
they cut to him coming home. And little
Jackson's
crying.
coming home, and he sees the baby crying on the floor. There's a bunch of furniture knocked over, and he picks up the baby. He's looking for Shelby, and he sees her laying on the floor with the phone strung out next to her, like she'd passed out trying to call him. And they get her to the hospital. Well, they had been having a baby shower back in their home. They'd been having a baby shower for Annelle. Mm-hmm. And it was on Halloween, and Dolly Parton was super excited because she'd never been able to throw a baby shower on Halloween. And they get the call that Shelby is sick and in the hospital.
I'm trying to remember if that's how it went or not, but
well,
it doesn't
had
matter.
to have been because it was on Halloween. And so she's sick. Turns out she's in a coma. And so for the next bit of time that she's in a coma,
Her mom does not leave her
mom
side.
stays at the hospital 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the whole thing. And they don't go super long through this, but eventually they show Dylan McDermott signing paperwork, and they shut off all the machines, and that is when Shelby passes away. Now, this is the part that was moving to me because I'd already done research for the podcast, and I knew that the movie was based on the last 3 years of his sister Susan Harling Anderson's life. And Robert Harling had written it in honor of his sister. He actually plays the pastor who does both Shelby's wedding and her funeral in the movie. And so you see her pass away. Apparently during the filming of this scene, Robert Harling's mom was on the set, and they, when she was taken off of life support, they asked her if she wanted to leave because they thought it might be too hard for her to watch it, having been through this with her actual daughter. And she said that she couldn't because she needed to see Shelby, or Julia Roberts, get up and walk away after the scene was over, because she hadn't been able to see her actual daughter do that. So obviously she was the person who the Malin character would have been based off of. So knowing all of that, also the doctors and nurses who tended to Shelby were also the doctors and nurses who had taken care of Susan during the end of her life. And they brought them in because they thought they would be able to best relate to what was going on. So that was, it made it a little more emotional for me, knowing that this was all based on what actually happened to the screenplay writer's sister, and it wasn't just a fictional story. You know, obviously the actors in the movie got up and walked away, but there was a real mom and a real daughter who, the daughter didn't get up and walk away, and the mom had to leave the hospital without her daughter. So that scene ends in a not so Hollywood fashion, and they go on to the funeral, and it's pretty intense at the funeral. A lot of sadness, and there's a big scene where all of the women gather together with Malin and are sharing, you know, and then Annelle, who has become super religious, starts telling her about how she should feel better because now Shelby is with her Lord, and Malin says, well, maybe that should make me feel better, and maybe I'm just selfish, but I don't care. I want her to be here with me, which is how I would feel. So I get that.
And she gets really angry and says stuff that normal people would, that why did it have to happen to her, you know.
And kind of tells Annelle off, and then Annelle kind of backs off. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Annelle kind of backs off and then explains that, you know, she's just trying to deal with it too. And she's trying to, you know, frame it in the way that she can to make it easier for her to handle. And then...
And she talks about how, you know, it makes her feel better if she thinks that now, you know, somebody's up there on her side now, that Shelby's up there taking care of her now, and that makes her feel better. And
Shelby had always wanted to be able to take care of her husband and her baby and her mom, and her, because of how weak her body was, she was not able to fully do that. And now that she had passed away, she could be up there watching out for them like a guardian angel. And that, it made her feel better to think that.
And at first it made her mom feel a little bit better, but then she, you know, did what people would do. Then she has a wave of emotions where she just starts letting a lot of stuff out. And then, that normal people would do as to why did it happen? What did she do to deserve it? And
then probably one of the funniest scenes in the movie, in the midst of one of the most intense scenes in the movie, Olympia Dukakis grabs Shirley MacLaine and says, "You just need to let it out. You just need to smack somebody. Here, take Weezer. Just hit her. Just smack her.
Just punch her."
And Weezer, played by Shirley MacLaine's getting really mad because, you know, Clarice just telling Sally Fields to punch her or smack her or hit her. And she's like, "Don't tell her to hit me."
And she keeps saying it over and over again. And then she says, "Just think, you can hit her and then you can wear a T-shirt that said, 'I punched Weezer.'"
Yeah, because really Weezer's like the scourge of the town. Like, she's always angry and bitter. There's one scene in the movie where someone talks to her about, because Melinda's a therapist. And she's like, "Maybe you need to come down to the office and talk to somebody about your depression and stuff." And she's like, she goes, "I'm not crazy. I've just been in a bad mood for 40 years.
Yeah.
And
that's all it was. And the funny thing is the cemetery scene was filmed in one take.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to break for any of that.
Well, they're all, I mean, of the people in the movie, I think the only ones who have not won Academy Awards are Daryl Hannah and Dolly Parton.
It was a good scene, though.
So they're all like world-class actresses.
And when they get past that scene, of course, Weezer is really mad at, I just forget her
Olympia
name.
Dukakis.
What's her name, though? Clarice. And so they go back to Melinda's home, and you see Clarice looking for Weezer, finds her out sitting on a bench, and she tries to come up quietly and sneak up on her, but she walks on a branch, and Weezer turns around and is like,
just tells her to go away.
"What do you want? Just go away." And Clarice sits down beside her on the bench, and she looks at her, and they start like sitting. They sit down, and Weezer tries to push her to get her out of the way, and then Clarice pushes her back, and they do this back and forth, and Weezer's trying not to smile because she wants to be mad at her.
And then she ends up knocking her on the ground.
"Stop telling my story."
She knocks her on the ground.
"You keep interrupting me."
On the ground.
Do you understand?
On the ground.
And they do this back and forth, back and forth. And Clarice laughing because she's not the one who's mad, and Weezer tries not to. But she does start smiling, and she does knock her off the ground, and she says to her, "Get off my bench." And that was one of the good parts, too.
I was concerned because Olympia Dukakis is probably, at this point in the movie, in her 60s. And I'm like, she could have, like, legit broke a hip or something falling off that bench.
Maybe they had a cushion or something waiting for her because they probably knew it was going to happen.
Like, it just was concerning. So, and then they go to Daryl Hannah is talking to Sally Field, and she's pregnant, which we've already discovered because they were having a baby shower.
I think you meant Malin. Malin. She's talking to Malin.
Is talking to Malin.
Mm-hmm. Malin is pushing her grandson in his swing in the yard.
And she says, you know, if I have this baby and it's a girl, I want to name her Shelby. And I wanted to make sure that was okay with you. And she gets permission from Malin. And then I think it's Olympia Dukakis or Clary who says, well, what if it's a boy? And she goes, well, I guess we'd still name it Shelby. And then they show them, they cut to her being 9 months pregnant, and they're at another, like, town festival, and everybody's...
It's Easter.
Oh, it's Easter, yeah. They're having an Easter egg hunt. And
I figured you could do that on your own, because when I talk, you want to interrupt and tell my stories, too. I figured you could tell yours all by yourself.
So there's an Easter egg hunt, and her husband, which I don't...
Whose husband?
Annelle's husband, is...
The bunny?
She's making him dress up as the bunny, and
The
he's
bunny,
not very happy
the
about
bunny.
it.
Ooh, I love the bunny.
And she, as he's dressing up as the bunny, she's over with a couple of the other gals.
She's 9 months pregnant.
She gets up, and I'm guessing her water breaks. They don't show exactly
You didn't
what
tell
happens.
all the good parts of the story.
Well, then tell them, please.
The good parts of the story are that, what is her name? What's Dukakis' name on here?
Clary.
Clary is telling a story to little Jack.
Oh, about
And she's,
Weezer,
hey, do not.
the band.
Do you know that you just told me to tell my story? And she's telling him a once upon a time story while they're looking through a book. And it's not the story, obviously. There lived, and, of course, in the story, she's this wonderful person. And there's this horrible, mean, scary person named Weezer. And so she paints this horrible story about Weezer. And so by the time she's done, Jack becomes afraid of Weezer. And so Jack gets up to go play. And here comes Weezer sneaking up on him on the other side of the tree. And when she bends down, she's like, Jack, hi, Jack. He starts screaming, and he slaps her across the face.
She says who she is. She says,
Yes.
I'm your Aunt Weezer. And he's...
Did you just interrupt my story?
Yes, because you
did?
didn't say that she said who she was.
That's
Otherwise,
okay.
he wouldn't have screamed and smacked her because he thought she was a monster.
But then I could finish my story.
Great, go for it.
Then he starts screaming, and she's bent down, and he slaps her across the face. And then Malin wonders what in the heck's going on, and she starts running towards him. She picks him up and just starts holding him, which is just so funny. And then in the meantime, he had already done out his egg hunt with his dad and everything. And in the meantime, you see Annelle. Got it. And she stands up and starts having contractions or something. So
Yeah, they don't really say what happens to where she discovers she's having a baby. She just is like, oh my. And then Dolly Parton comes over to her, or Truvy, and says, oh, we're having a baby. And she runs her over to the car, and they get in the car with her husband, who is one of the weird named guys.
Spud.
And her and Spud and Annelle take off without her husband, but then their son...
Dolly Parton, Truvy, tells her son to go get the bunny because he drives a motorcycle.
Right,
so
and he shows up with his rainbow striped hair.
He goes out on the lawn and gets the bunny and takes off. And you see them going down the road, following each other to the hospital. And the movie's over.
Yes, and
They
that's
don't
when
tell
the
us.
credits roll.
They don't tell us if it was a girl or a boy, but she did say if it was a boy, she'd still name it Shelby. So
Yeah, so if she had a baby named Shelby, we're guessing. Mm-hmm. She could have just died during childbirth. We don't know.
we have no idea. But when we had our kid named Shelby, my mom told me that Shelby was a boy's name because Reba McEntire's boy was named Shelby. So, which I don't know, whatever.
She apparently hadn't seen Steel Magnolias,
I guess not.
so
Little weird.
poo on her. So before we move on to the next part of the movie, we will take a short break.
Show starts in 1 minute. Please remember to replace the speaker on the post when you leave the theater.
And we're back. So we will next ask the question. In 2019, does this movie get made?
Sure.
I can tell you in 2012 it did, as a Lifetime movie, starring Queen Latifah. That I did not know until today. I have not seen that movie. Don't know that I will see that movie, but it does exist. And there's a little bit of sexism in the movie, which is weird for a female-based movie. Part of it I'm not really sure because it seemed sexist at first because Malin was like adamant that Shelby stay home after she get married, that she didn't need to go to work anymore because she was going to have an attorney husband, and Shelby was adamant that she wanted to go to work.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was because of her health problems, but you don't realize it in the beginning of the movie.
You don't know about the health problems when that discussion happens. Mm-hmm. So it comes across as very sexist.
Right.
But
her mom is a working woman because she is a psychologist or a therapist, so I'm pretty sure, well, actually, I know it was because of her health problems.
Yes, so, there's not a whole lot in the movie that would really have to be changed today.
No. They do have a time where it's actually not really degrading that they do talk about somebody having a gay son or grandson, but they were like, well, how do you know if someone's gay? And they said that, what did they say about him?
Something about...
I can't remember now.
But it really was even a joke that would work today.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't even come across as homophobic.
No.
And
so I think that it would...
there was a part where,
fine.
Because they discovered that one of them had a family member who was gay.
Mm-hmm. A grandson.
But it was never like an issue.
No.
Like for a 1989 movie, given all the homophobic things we've seen in 80s movies, even that was handled very well.
Right. No, I think this could be made now.
Yeah, with virtually nothing changed.
Right.
The only thing I would say is the first hour or so of the movie, by 2019 standards, moves somewhat slowly.
Maybe it was just you.
And
I thought it was fine.
But I think that they would probably...
Can you hear me talking?
Yes.
Other people in the theater did too. I'm thinking it's just you.
But I think for the movie to make money today, they would probably pace it a little quicker or rev up the humor to maybe a Kevin Hart level.
No, we don't need that. It was funny enough.
So, or like a Melissa McCarthy level.
No, it doesn't need to be. I mean, I like Melissa McCarthy and I love her movies, but I think it was funny enough as it is.
So we will move on to our reviews. Before we give our reviews, we will go back to our favorite movie critic, the biggest movie critic of probably the last 30 years, Mr. Roger Ebert. May he rest in peace for all of his bad movie opinions.
Which is why you want to give it?
Well, this one wasn't as bad.
Well, because it's not all comedy.
Roger Ebert gave this 3 out of 4. And he said, Steel Magnolias is essentially a series of comic one-liners leading up to a teary tragedy, but let it be said that the one-liners are mostly funny and the tragedy deserves most but not all of the tears. So he still can't quite, give it props for being a really good movie. He still has to kind of come up short and say, it was mostly funny and, kind of moving. And not really say, that it was a really good movie, because Roger Ebert.
It sounds like you today.
So we will now give our reviews. With our reviews, we will give 3 options of how we can review the movie. One is if we really liked the movie, we will say it is... If we liked the movie okay, but not great, it is... Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. And if we didn't really care for the movie, then we would go for... I can't go for that, no. No, can't do I can't go for that, no. So, Krista, is this movie hot, sticky, sweet, stuck in the middle, or I can't go for that?
Here's the thing. These are your clips. I cannot say that I like this movie hot, sticky, sweet. That's just wrong. I really like this movie.
And what do you like about it? Why do you like it?
I like it because it's funny, but yet at the same time, it gets you right there. It tugs at your heartstrings. It makes you think. You understand?
What did you think about?
I'm not. Being a parent, it just, since the last time I watched it, I was not a parent. It makes you more emotional.
So I'm going to have to say this is a tough one for me because I'm somewhere between stuck in the middle and hot, sticky, sweet.
I cannot say Still Magnolias hot, sticky, sweet. That's just so wrong. Ooh, my S's. That sounds horrible.
So the comedy in the movie, in my opinion, was okay. It was not great. There were a few really funny scenes. There were a lot of scenes that a lot of people in the theater laughed at that I didn't think were super funny.
I think maybe you're just a fuddy-duddy and you don't know what funny is. Oh, wait. You think you're funny. That's the problem.
But the last part of the movie was extremely moving, extremely well done. So I guess it's leaning that needle's kind of wavering between stuck in the middle and hot, sticky, sweet.
I think I'm going to have to work on this and find something else besides hot, sticky, sweet.
And we'll see what you can do.
It reminds me of like a sticky bun you have for breakfast and your fingers get stuck with the hair and stuff after.
So that is all we have for our beautiful, lovely, wonderful episode this week. We are coming up on closing time.
It's closing time.
One more
Round?
call for something.
I don't know.
I don't know the 90s music as well as you do. Apparently neither one of us do. But you can follow us on Twitter at Schweet Shiznits. I, Jason, am on Twitter at Gravy Boat Pirate, in case you can't tell our voices apart. My lovely co-host Krista is on Twitter at KristaWhite73. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com.
Speaking of gravy boat pirates, sounds like your ship's about to leave.
It's leaving the port. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Schweet Shiznits. You can find us on Instagram at Schweet Shiznits. You can email us at schweetshiznits@gmail.com. We will be online at schweetshiznits.com. And share our posts and our tweets. Let your friends, family, and followers know about us. This is the best gift you can give us. Obviously, we are listener-supported, so if you would like to help support us, you could do that as well. That is also a great gift you can give us. If you'd like to do that, you can support us at patreon.com/SweetShiznits. As a supporter or a patron, you will get access to bonus content. You can help us shape the content of our show. We'll also mention you on the air and send you gifts and surprises. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Your ratings and reviews will help make us more visible and help others to find us. Also, if you give us a 5-star review, we will read it on the air and mention you. Now, if you do rate us, let us know who you are, because it does not give us your name on the rating. You can find us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, or anywhere you find quality podcasts. So until next week, we will talk to you then. I am Jason White here with Krista, and have a great week, and tell your mom I said goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.